Where my girls at? Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's so serious. Where my girls at? We ain't linked up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right.
Where my girls at? It's going down. It's going down on a terrific Tuesday. Well, good evening, everybody. You are listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 9:10 a.m. The Superstation WFDF, based out of Detroit, but it is heard all over the world. I am your host today, Crisette Ellis from the D, and I am hanging out with my girlfriend, Sabrina Goodwin Monday, hanging out somewhere in Baltimore, Maryland. And of course, Gloria Mayfield Banks, who is in Ellicott City, Maryland. And I believe that we have our girl, Caterina Harris Earl, on the line. She's not on our Facebook Live today, but I know she's going to be calling into the station. When I tell you, these chicks, they travel so much. If they can jump on, they get in where they can fit in. And so it's all good. It's all good. Well, we're excited to be on this Tuesday, and this is going to be a great conversation, very informational on today. I'm excited because this is a topic that I didn't know a whole lot about, so I am going to be leaning into this conversation. We're going to be talking about menthol and flavored tobacco in the urban community. And I'm telling you, anywhere you go, especially when it comes to young people, I don't know if that includes vaping or not, but I do know that it is a problem. Let me just say this. Smoking still remains the leading cause of preventable death and disease in the United States. Preventable. Anything that's preventable means that if we don't do something, it won't cause our death. But we know, as simple as that sound, is not always that simple. So we have an exciting guest who's with us on today, Manu Jones, and ladies, just can't wait to hear what she has to tell us about, the urban community and what she and her organization are doing to bring light to that issue. Well, you guys, it's a lot that's going on around the country. Of course, we just got out of the midterms election, and that's still taking up a lot of the airways and the news cycle. And I mean, we're still looking to Georgia, which they're going to have their runoff coming up really, really soon. And so we're going to talk a little bit. Well, we're not going to talk a lot about that, but I'm going to throw it over to the girlfriends, and they're going to tell us what's going on in their neck of the room and their neck of the world. Okay, so we can get to our guests sooner than later. So Sabrina is sporting a serious black hat. Okay, looking super, and got on her super bad all day long t-shirt. Okay, And Gloria, you didn't get the memo about the black, but it's all good. It's all good.
Wrong text group again.
Again, right? So Sabrina, talk to us what's going on in Maryland.
Oh my goodness, trying to get settled. I was away for the weekend, went home to Tulsa, Oklahoma. My brother had a book signing. That was such a good occasion. So good to go home for not a funeral, or something sad, somebody sick. And so it's so much love in the air, a lot of visiting with family, friends I hadn't seen since elementary school. So that was good. Yeah, educators came out for different forms of, grade school, middle school, high school. Tulsa is a close-knit community. Everybody knows everybody on the north side. And so it was just good to be there. But I was inspired. I said, I got to get home and get my house unpacked. And so my helper didn't come today. Y'all, I done broke a fingernail, in these boxes. And my husband, because I'm still officing out of the kitchen. And so, because he looked at me before I left, he's like, you going to get in the office? You going to get in your officing time soon? Because I was getting real comfortable right here at this kitchen counter, okay? So I said, I'm getting in there. But, oh, my goodness, it's just too much stuff, y'all. There's got to be an easier way to move, an easier way to purge, an easier way to throw away stuff. So if you're a listener and you're an expert, I thought I was an expert until I got in this big old house, and I still don't have enough room. So at this point, I'm talking boxes and stuff. It's like, throw it in the trash. So,
and Gloria, and Sabrina, she gonna say throw it in the trash, and then when we travel, she gonna be calling us to say, "Do you have this?"
She needs that stuff.
You in the trash. Mm-hmm.
She needs everything she's throwing away. She needs everything she's throwing away.
It's cheaper to keep her. I don't know about this stuff. It's cheaper to buy over when you need it. So I needed something. I got Gloria super bad all day long. I threw on some lipstick right before the show. And let's go. Gloria, how you feel? I'm glad to be back live with the girlfriends. What's happening?
It's exciting to be here. I was so leaned in to see what happened with Greg's book celebration and being there with the family and seeing the picture with you and Sydney. And we're going to lean in. People have to know there's a show after the show. And we're going to have to get the 411 on the show after the show when the family comes together for something so big as a brand new book and something that's so passionate about something like that. I was telling a friend of mine about it, Greg and his book and how big he is in baseball. And it was a great show. So I'm very excited. Love the fact that you on the most magnificent shirt. I am losing here. Yesterday, Crisette had the best shirt on. Now today, you got the best shirt on, and I show up in the wrong color. So we're going to go on to the guests because I'm truly not the one. Caterina, I know, is online, but I'm so very excited. Here, it's raining, but I decided to be grateful. I do have to say two things, though. We're definitely going to lift up prayers for the family of the parents of the football players. That is just so sad to get that information. I made some phone calls today, they look so spectacular. Their light was so bright. Their smiles were so big. They were so phenomenal athletes. It wasn't like they were just athletes. They were very talented athletically and academically. So that was just everything about that. The gun guy just got a gun not very long ago. It's just, all of it is just super sad. And then on the other hand, where Poland is getting attacked, I don't think that we can pull the rug over our eyes and, as much as it is. But when that hits Poland, if we find out that was Russia that hit Poland, we're taking up a whole nother escalation. So we just have to stay woke, stay aware, stay grateful for what we can stay grateful for, but be tuned in with where we can get tuned in and do what we can do. Chris.
And then Gloria, what about the 4 students at the University of Idaho? Did you guys hear about 4 students, University of Idaho, turned up?
Yes, and they said it was a love triangle.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so Gloria, you heard a love triangle?
That's what I heard. I heard it was a love triangle. That's why the community didn't have to be necessarily afraid, but they still don't have, from what I understand, they still don't have the person who took a knife or a jagged edge to the person. I mean, it wasn't even gun. It was just awful.
But it's 4. Why did he have to kill 4 people?
Young.
It sounds more like more than a love triangle if it's 4 people dead. What?
Right.
in the world.
Right.
What in the world?
Right. Young, 2021. It's and the way that, when you talk about a knife and a jagged edge, it's more than a notion. It's more than a notion. It's more than a notion.
Prayers for all those families of these young people. My goodness.
So many prayers. And your heart just goes out, when you think back to when your children went away to college and you just prayed that, that they would meet the right friends, that they, wouldn't get caught up, that they would do their studying. And kids are going to be kids. They have to grow. They were probably going to go to parties, but your prayer was like, they will come back, safe and sound. And I'll be honest, I never once thought, Kiera or Buddy going away to college, I never worried that they would die at college, that they wouldn't come home. I may have thought they would be sick or something, but that never crossed my mind. And you know what? Now that we're hearing more of this, because these are 2 universities, you're thinking, what are parents thinking now? You got to have a totally different conversation with your children when they go away to college, because this is showing you it's not necessarily you can't take for granted anymore that they go to college and they'll come home. I mean, that's just so heartbreaking. And I can only imagine, what those parents are feeling. So we absolutely want to send prayers and thoughts to them. Real quickly, Caterina, are you on the line before we meet our guest? Are you there, Caterina?
I am. I'll be real quick. I have black on, Gloria. I'm sorry I didn't get the group text even, but I am one with my girlfriends. Sabrina, I want to remind you to give thanks about only losing a nail in that box, because remember when you lost your ring in that box? Remember when you lost a ring in a box, one of your diamond rings, and you found it later? So be grateful. My husband has me moving. But we have 2 closets, one in California and one in Chicago, and he has me moving my Chicago closet to California. Y'all pray for me, because my California closet is already full. So I'm like, what is I gonna do? We have to build another closet, big old house, and still need more room. So the reason I'm not on, can y'all just say jury duty? Jury duty, pray for me, okay? Because we need people
you got
like
selected?
me for jury. I'm hoping to. I mean, you just don't know how to pray, because you need people on the jury, but not me, Lord, not me. So I don't know. Just pray
not
for me.
today.
Time. Right.
Lord. All right, back to you, Chris.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys, I'm excited to bring our guest on. If you would bring Miss Manu Jones too. We got issues. We are so excited to have her with us on today. She's looking absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to introduce her to you in just a minute, but I wanted to give you a little bit of these stats. And this is coming from the National Library of Medicine. It says findings suggest that tobacco outlets are more concentrated in areas where people with higher risk for negative health outcomes reside. Future studies should examine the relationship of TOD and smoking cessation, as well as disease rates. So we're going to spend some time talking about that in the urban areas, urban communities. But I also wanted to share this, that every year the tobacco industry costs the world, listen to this, more than 8 million human lives in a year, 600 million trees, and 22 billion tons of water, and 84 million tons of CO2. And again, it's another whole conversation when you talk about what it is doing with our climate and climate control. But we're not going to concentrate on that today. We want to concentrate on how it is affecting the urban community. So I am so excited to lean into this conversation, because this is not a conversation that I have had with a lot of people. So our guest on today is Manu Jones. She is the founder and the CEO of Making It Count Community Development Corporation, a Black woman-led 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide meaningful opportunities that count towards making a difference in the overall equity and equality in community members. Ms. Jones previously served as the CEO of the Black Caucus Foundation of Michigan, where she secured the organization's first federal $1.25 million grant. She has more than 20 years of experience in the field of development and public health. Her organization, MIC, is currently spearheading efforts to reduce tobacco-related disparities in Wayne and Oakland County by organizing stakeholders to ban tobacco products. Tobacco kills 45,000 African Americans each year. And she also serves as the chair of Detroit Wayne County Oakland Tobacco Coalition and a member of Tobacco Free Michigan. So she has much more in her bio. We're going to our first break. And when we come back from that break, the next voice you will hear will be that of our guest, Manu Jones. And we're going to lean into this conversation. We absolutely want you to be a part of it. So give us a call at 313-778-7600. You're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 910 AM, the Superstation. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. We are back. You're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. And our guest today is Minu Jones, and she's going to be talking to us about tobacco and menthol use in the urban community. So, Minu, thank you so much, and welcome to We Got Issues. We are so excited to have you on today. Okay, and so let's get started with this conversation. Just kind of talk to us a little bit about how you got started with this issue, because this is such an important issue. How did you get started in this issue with this issue?
You know, that's a good question. I actually went to school on a dance scholarship, believe it or not. But I've been in public health for 20 years and, born and raised in the city of Detroit. And like many Detroiters, right, we grew up in households where our parents smoked. And so both of my parents smoked. I've lost many family members and friends to tobacco. And I was actually involved working for the city of Detroit back in the day when the smoke-free air ordinance passed, right? So I was one of the people that was spearheading that effort to make sure public places were smoke-free. It happened in Wayne County in Detroit, and then the entire state went smoke-free. So, there's many issues that when we think about public health, but you talked about it being the number one preventable cause of death and disease in the United States. And so we got enough challenges going on, and when there are opportunities to educate the community so that we can bypass those health issues through prevention, that's what I'm all about.
Wow, that is so powerful. And yes, I think most of us know people in our family who smoke. Most of us know people who may have died from lung cancer that was attributed to smoking. And, it's just so interesting how, growing up, I remember, my neighbor, she smoked, and she used to give us like 50 cents to go to the corner store to get her a box of cigarettes. My mother didn't want us going to get them, but you better know 50 cents, we were sneaking to the corner store and getting those cigarettes, because 50 cents could get you a lot of candy back in the day. But now they have a warning on cigarettes that says that it causes cancer. I mean, that back in the day, they absolutely didn't talk about how addictive cigarette smoking was, nicotine, and they absolutely didn't talk about it causing cancer. So I know that has a lot to do with legislation and how they've changed some things. But let's talk about, in our community, how, you can't go anywhere in the Black community where you don't see the stores, the liquor stores, and you go out in the suburbs, their party stores don't have this big sign that says liquor and tobacco. So talk about the disparities there.
Yeah. So for more than 60 years, the tobacco industry has deliberately targeted Black and brown communities, specifically urban communities. And if you look at Detroit, research shows that we are, in fact, a tobacco swamp. That means that there is a tobacco retail store within 10 minutes of every person living in the city of Detroit. A 10-minute walk. So you think about that and you look at the health disparities associated. You have higher rates of cancer, higher rates of lung disease, higher rates of asthma, higher rates of diabetes, of hypertension, cardiovascular disease. All of those things can be attributed to tobacco use, and so you look at that and you think about how the tobacco industry has played us. Right. They have sponsored sporting events. If you think about our Jet magazines back in the day, right? Every other page was a Newport or Cool ad. They used beautiful Black models where we hadn't had the opportunity to be seen in that light before, right? They sponsored sporting events. They sponsored the Cool Mix Jazz Festival. They were very methodic about the things that we love. You think about at a time when we were going through the civil rights movement, they were, employing Blacks as CEOs, in the tobacco industry. So it's not it. They've been methodical, and as a result, in the 1950s, 5% of Black smokers smoked menthol. Today, that number is 85%. We are almost exclusive users of menthol cigarettes. And make no mistake, this is a social justice issue. And, it hits home for me. I lost my father on November 2nd to COPD and emphysema. He was diagnosed when he was in his 40s, right? Wow. He was a factory worker. You think about factory workers in the city of Detroit. My father worked in the glass plant, right? So you think about all of the glass particles in the air, and then he was smoking on top of it. The tobacco industry has lied to us. They made us think that menthol was safer, that it was smoother, that it was medicine. And in fact, it has led to our demise. It is the number one killer of African Americans. 45,000 Black lives are lost each year. The number one killer, so we got a lot of education and work to do.
That's powerful. That's unconscionable to see how it jumped from, I don't know if you said 5 to 6%, all the way to 85%. I mean, that's unconscionable. It really is.
Yeah. And Lady Crisette, there are even research articles out that show that, the menthol, you think about menthol is a flavor. You think about Vicks Vapor Rub, all of that stuff. Your grandma put the Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest when you had a cold. And what happens? It opens up your air passages, right? So that means that you inhale deeper, right? It masks the harshness. It, is soothing and cooling, but it's killing us. And the tobacco industry knew that. Dr. Valerie Yeager, she has research that shows that the melanin in African American skin, when menthol is present, it causes the nicotine to hang out in our cells longer. And as a result of that, it's easier for us to get hooked because it's in our bodies longer. And it's harder for us to quit. So
because it's more addictive.
It's definitely more addictive. And it's not just Black communities, right? We're talking about our youth. You can't tell me that a flavored tobacco product is called Cocoa Krispies, Fruity Pebbles, Cinnamon Roll, Juicy Bear, all of this stuff. You are targeting our babies. And as a mother of 5, the gloves come off.
Right.
So Minu, you're really giving us great education. Thank you for the work you're doing, because honestly, these statistics that you're giving are staggering. And it's unfortunate that, miseducation, uneducation of our community it's tragic. And so my question to you is, how do we get more of this education out through our churches, through our communities, to our communities? What can we do to help educate? Because if it doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect you, right? I mean, I don't know it. I don't know it because it's unfortunate. I don't know it. So I want to know more. How do we give the information? And is this vaping too? Are we talking vaping? Is this the same as vaping?
Yes. If it's cigarettes, whether it's a cigarette, a vape, a hookah pipe, a cigar, a cigarillo, a smokeless tobacco, all of those things are considered tobacco products, and they are harmful.
I'm gonna have you hold that, because that's a large category of items. So we want to come back to that. We're going to go to our break. And when we come back, let's talk about how they're targeting our young people. you're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. We're talking tobacco and flavored tobaccos in the urban community. We want you to call us 313-778-7600 with your comments or your questions. We'll be right back after this break. We're back. We're back. You're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship, and we're talking about tobacco and menthol in the urban community. Our guest today is Manu Jones, and this is such a great conversation. And I want to go back before we talk about how they're targeting our young people. Sabrina had a great question, and her question was, how do we get the message out? Because this is not something, I'll be honest, you know, being the first lady of a church, I'll be honest, we are talking about cigarettes in our community. I mean, it's just something that everything is tackled. We have Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We talk about domestic violence. We talk about high blood pressure. We talk about a lot of medical problems that African Americans suffer, but we have never, ever, which is so interesting, talked about the danger of menthol and cigarette smoking. So talk to us about how we can get that message out.
Yeah. And I do want to say my hat's off to Greater Grace for just providing the platform and opportunity to learn more and do more. We do have a lot of the Choose Healthy Life churches participating and educating their congregations about menthol and flavored tobacco products. If you want to learn more, you can go to our website. That's endmenthol.org. If you want to help share the news about quitting and resources, 1-800-QUIT-NOW is a great resource for that. And then lastly, we want people to actually join in this fight. November 17th coming up, right, in a couple days. That is the Great American Smokeout, right? And so that's through the American Cancer Society. People can learn more about cancer and tobacco and set their quit date. Nicotine, this is an addiction, right? This is not about judging people. It's about giving people the resources that they need and educating ourselves so that we can be of help.
Very good. Very good.
Caterina, I think Katrina's on the line, and I know you had a question that you wanted to ask, Caterina.
Yes, I definitely. Just want to say that I am really deathly allergic to tobacco. I mean, I am someone who that second and third hand smoke. I was just at a family funeral and we stayed till the end, and the smoke afterwards, there was some folks that were smoking when we were hanging out afterwards, and I had to lean over to my husband and say, I have got to go, like literally. And 3-4 days later, I think I can still feel it in my throat now. And so I just met I literally was working on a show about this because we just were in Cincinnati for a homegoing service, and coming out of Original Pancake House, met a sharp sister, Sabrina. She's your soror, and she was in there with one of the congressmen for a proposition that was on the ballot in Ohio. It would be a great connection. I'd love to connect the two of you. She's an attorney. And so I wanted to talk about legislation that you know of that maybe is happening in your state or even across the board. I actually just texted her and said, how did the election go, to find out if they were successful in Ohio, because this is exactly what they were working on. So can you talk about this from a legislative standpoint?
Absolutely, absolutely. We know policy provides population level change, right? So we are working to educate policymakers so that there are restrictions locally on flavored tobacco products. From a statewide perspective, Michigan recently just upped the age to purchase tobacco products from 18 to 21 to align with the federal age requirement.
Right.
But there are still things that we need to do. Michigan doesn't have tobacco retailer licensing.
Anybody can sell it?
Huh?
Anybody can sell it?
Say it again.
That's anybody can sell it. That's crazy.
Say it again. So there is a lot of work to be done. And, as Lady Crisette said earlier, this is not something that many people know a whole lot about. So there is the educational piece that has to happen to the broader community and elected officials. This is not passing a restriction on menthol and flavored tobacco products is not something new. There are actually 360 municipalities in the United States that have passed a restriction. So, we need it to happen for us, for our community. We are dying in large numbers here. In 2010, the FDA was given the authority to restrict the sale and distribution of flavored tobacco products, and almost instantly, flavored cigarettes were removed from the shelves. You probably didn't even know flavored cigarettes even existed because they were removed so quickly. But menthol was excluded. And as I said before, African Americans are the number one smokers of menthol products. So when you excluded menthol, you lifted
Yeah.
the protection
Right.
for Black
Right.
lives and made it a social justice issue.
Right.
So I say to my callers, my clergy, my Black leaders, if Black lives matter, Black
Mhm.
lungs need to matter too. You need to
Wow.
get
Right.
educated about this issue, and you need to educate others about this issue. We are fighting for our lives, literally.
Mhm.
Mhm. I am so moved by this incredible conversation and this awareness that we're getting about this. So I have two questions or comments I'd like you to speak on. I want to know at what ages are they grabbing these children to get into our community like this? Because I was back in the day when Wayne County was one of the first, and both my parents started smoking and then they stopped smoking. So I'm with you 100% on that. But when this was happening, it was like, when do they grab our children before they're
12,
even
13.
legally able to smoke? That's a really big part of it. And then the other piece that's so interesting to me, we know power and money drives this industry. Power and money drives all industries. So knowing that this is wrong many times doesn't stop the problem. It's where is the money flowing and how do we stop the money from flowing that way? Or when it affects the other community as much as it starts to affect our community, they will start to pay attention. So I wonder what continues to allow them, uh, to remove it from everywhere else as long as it doesn't affect Black people. But how do the kids, what ages are they grabbing our children?
So age 12 and 13. So you're thinking about the transition from middle school to high school is when most youth engage in drug experimentation and tobacco use. But Dave Chappelle's story, right, was that he was given a free tobacco product in the subway when he was 9 years old, and decided at that point, he went home and decided that he was going to become a professional smoker. He was
Mm.
9. In Detroit, I see your mouth open, but in Detroit, I remember going to the festivals and models were on at the festivals in these gold jumpsuits passing out free cigarettes. So you
Mhm.
think about the access to those free products, and just growing up in a household where both parents smoke, you're thinking about the schools now who are inundated with instances of vaping to the point that they're no longer
Right.
suspending kids because it's
No.
just too many kids
Right.
to suspend
It's
because
way
Right.
too
they're
much.
vaping in the
It's way too
bathroom.
much.
This is an Vaping is an epidemic among youth. And Altria, who's the maker of Juul, they were recently
Right.
they were sued and they lost that lawsuit. So we know with the tobacco industry about why do they continue to get away with it? Because it's money. You follow the money. In
Yeah.
Detroit, yeah,
Right.
Reverend Sheffield was recently approached by the tobacco industry. They started off saying, "We'll give you $50,000 to not side with Minu and what her organization is doing. We'll give you 100,000. We'll give you 150,000." They upped that ante to $250,000 to try to buy him to side with the tobacco industry. But what they didn't
Wow.
understand was Reverend Sheffield, like me, has a greater understanding about this. It's personal. He lost his mother when he was 16. She smoked her life
Mm.
away and died in her 40s. I just lost my daddy. I don't think that there's a caller on this airway who has not lost somebody to cancer,
Right. Right.
asthma, heart
And,
disease, diabetes, all of that. And we as a
COPD.
community, I I say we need to be about public health to the point and prevention to the point where we die of natural causes. You know what I mean?
Right. Manu,
idea,
I want you to hold that thought. We're going to take
yeah.
our final break. I can't believe this is going by so fast. We're going to take our final break and have you finish your thought when we come back. You guys, you're tuned into We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. Our guest is Manu Jones, and we are talking about tobacco and menthol in the urban community. We would love to hear from you. Our number is 313-778-7600. We'll be right back after this break. All right, we are back. We are back with our last segment of We Got Issues. And when I tell you this has been such a great conversation, it's gone by so fast. We're so glad
Chris,
to have.
we can't hear you, Chris. Volume.
Sorry, I was just saying that we are in our final segment of We Got Issues, and we have been having such a great conversation, an eye-opening conversation with our guest, Manu, who found Make Count Community Development Corporation. And so go ahead and finish your thought, Manu, as you were talking right before the break.
Yeah, we have to do more to protect our communities, and that starts with education. The idea that people have to die from these chronic illnesses if you look across the United States and you compare the inner cities and urban communities to the suburbs, as you mentioned earlier, they don't have the level of death and disease that we have. And there are things in our community that we need to pay attention to and work to change. And one of those is the products that are being sold to us at cheaper prices, more prevalent. Tobacco is one of those products.
And Manu, let me even mention, and this is something I don't know in the last 5 or 6 years, where you can go into gas stations, and whoever heard of you being able to buy 2 cigarettes? You don't even have, they're trying to take as much money as they can in the Black community. Way back in the day, you had to buy the entire box of cigarettes. Now they'll give you onesie twosies, okay, because they know it's so addictive. And can you talk to us a little bit? I know we're coming close to the end of the show, about how we can hold tobacco companies, how we can put their feet to the fire and say, hey, they need to be given money to help these communities where they have infiltrated their products. So what are some of the things that we can do to hold them accountable?
Yeah, call them out when there is a lie. Call it out. When there are tobacco products that are being illegally sold in your community, it's illegal to sell a loose cigarette. You can file a complaint with the Food and Drug Administration. That's real easy to do. Just Google file a complaint with FDA for tobacco. You can file a complaint. You can email me, believe it or not, and I will file it for you.
Okay.
And then don't, educate yourself. Don't believe the lies. The tobacco industry, they are about their payday. They don't care about our lives. They don't care about your kids. So when they come to you, come in our communities and pay our Black leaders to try to push these lies, and scare us into believing that banning menthol, which the FDA has said that they're going to move forward and do, is going to put a target on Black lives, understand and, respond that that's you a lie. And that's a lie. Yeah. You have had your back. The tobacco industry has had a target on our back for 60 years, and they have benefited from all of those deaths. And enough is enough. We deserve so much better.
So let me ask you this, because we're talking about menthol. What are some alternatives? Because I know it's easier said than done to just say, just like Nancy Reagan said, say no to drugs. Okay, yeah. If it was that easy, you could just say no. But because of its addictive nature, what are some of the alternatives?
So there are cessation resources available. My mother, she smoked my whole life and is 5 years smoke free. I am just so proud of her, and thank you. And what I've learned is, if you are a smoker, know your why. Know your why of why you want to quit. Is it about your health? Is it for your kids? Know your why, and then you use all of this energy to become a professional cigarette smoker. You practice 20 times a day if you smoke a pack of cigarettes. You might not be able to quit on the first attempt, but keep quitting. You can call 1-800-QUIT now. They have resources available to you. There are, medicines that are available, nicotine replacement therapy, gums, lozenges, meditation, hypnosis. Do everything that you need to do, and eventually it will stick.
I just want to
never give up on quitting. Go ahead, Caterina.
That's it.
I just want to jump in, Manu. This has been so enlightening. My father smoked for years, and the girlfriends know he's deceased. He passed away at 67. I know that played a role in it. But he did quit when he was, I think, 54 or 55. When my dad was my age, he moved in with me. And when he came from North Carolina to California, he was a smoker, and he was, smoking outside. Then he started kind of smoking in his room. And from downstairs to the upstairs, it was coming through the air conditioning system. And one day my father saw how amazingly sick I was. And he didn't say anything. I just started noticing he wasn't smoking. And I said, Dad, what happened? He said, when I saw my baby and how sick you were, I quit cold turkey. And he did not smoke a cigarette after that. And so when you talk about your why, it's like, that was like, wow, he had forgotten just how sick it made me. And it reminded him. And he was like, she ain't about to have an asthma attack up in here because of me.
Right.
So the why is
that's
real.
so powerful. Having a why is so important. So, Minu, as we get ready to come to the close of our show, your final thoughts on what we need to do in our community?
Even though the FDA has said that they're going to move forward with banning menthol, as I said before, lives are at stake. We at the local level are not waiting on the FDA. We need community outcry. We need support. So I am asking your callers to please help us sign the resolution of support at www.endmenthol.org. You can sign it as an individual, and you can sign it for your organization.
Excellent.
www.endmenthol.org. And you know what? We have to be a community. We have to care. Gloria?
I was just going to ask her, does it grow during the holidays? Do we go into a more dangerous time at this time of the year, the holidays, the winter time?
Tobacco, right? So we got on November 17th, as I said before, right? That is the Great American Smokeout, right? We know that African Americans in particular like to try to attempt to quit cold turkey. And that is kind of like one of the least effective ways. So, I encourage people, think about your why, set your quit date, and maybe warm up that turkey with some sides. You know what I mean? So get you some additional assistance. Call 1-800-QUIT NOW. January 1st is coming up. What a great resolution that might be, for you to improve your health. And I wish everybody the absolute best as we get close to the holidays. I know that it's a sensitive time for some people. So I'll hold you guys up in prayer. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
We're coming to the close. We absolutely want to have you back to further talk about this, because I know this was just the tip of the iceberg of this topic, but we appreciate you sharing it on We Got Issues. Thank you so much for listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. We'll be here tomorrow. We're here Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. We'll see you on tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.